During week 206 of Brada's Branded Thoughts, an exclusive interview with Anterio Thompson. Yes, the JUCO phenom that's coming to Iowa next year. Dude ran a 4.6 at a Nebraska football camp. We'll sit down with Anterio, a guy oozing with confidence, and talk about his future in Iowa City. Plus, where I was wrong about Iowa football. All that coming up during week 206 of Brada's Branded Thoughts. This is from the Hawkeye of the Storm. You may have heard of the real-life Hawkeye man cave known as Kinnick Under the Kitchen. Well, after lots of hard work, there's not much space left to paint, but the walls are exploding out for public consumption. Under the Kitchen is proud to announce that you can now purchase exclusive prints of some of your favorite Hawkeye legends, including wrestling great Spencer Lee, football players Arlen Bruce, Riley Moss, and Tavian Banks, plus an all-in-one Murray family legacy print featuring Keegan, Chris, and Kenyon Murray himself. Signed and unsigned prints are available, making the perfect collectible or gift for any Hawkeye enthusiast. For more information on purchasing one of these outstanding Hawkeye prints, visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook. That's Under the Kitchen on Facebook. Week 206 of Brada's Branded Thoughts. Want to thank you for being here. Want to remind you, please subscribe to this channel. If you've not done so, scroll down, hit that little subscribe button, and go ahead and click the little bell next to subscribe. Give you alerts to when we go live, post new content, etc. We will get to Anterio Thompson, junior college transfer Anterio Thompson, who, by the way, is looking to enroll early. It's a good sign for Iowa's defensive line. It could be losing some veteran leadership in 2023, and this guy is a phenom. Again, we'll talk with Thompson here in a couple of minutes. But the first part of this show, I wanted to dedicate to what I was wrong about. And I was indeed wrong on several levels about this Iowa football team. Let's start with number 3. This defense. I did not think that this defense could keep up. And it's nothing against the defense. I want to make this clear. I have had unbelievable faith and unbelievable amount of respect for Phil Parker, Kelvin Bell, Seth Wallace, everybody. Jay Neiman. This defensive staff has been absolutely incredible. I think this has been the best defense in the Phil Parker era. And yes, I am taking into account, I'm recording this after Iowa gave up, 250 yards to Mo Ibrahim on Saturday. They give up 10 points in the game. The defense, although at times they've struggled against the run. Yesterday was not the first time. They struggled against the run against Illinois. They struggled against Michigan. And now they struggled against Minnesota. Despite that, they have shown up each and every week. And these games where the offense does literally nothing, and thankfully the offense did something on Saturday. They didn't really do much of anything the final 3 quarters, but they were semi-effective in the first quarter until Sam Laporta went down, and then they struggled, 114 yards for the final 3 quarters combined. But the fact of the matter is this defense, in spite of the offense, has been able to maintain its efficiency, its proficiency. I mean, you would expect, right? You would expect one unit to suffer. You would expect multiple units to suffer if one unit is just cataclysmically bad, right? Is that a word? And Iowa's offense, for the most part this year, has been awful. We know that. I mean, I don't need to beat a dead horse. The offense has been awful, and yet the defense has not let up. I haven't seen a step back in performance until yesterday. And again, they only gave up 10 points in the game. Yeah, they gave up a ton of rushing yards. They bent, were on the field a bunch, still found a way to hold Minnesota to 10. That's a winning number. And we go back to the games where they needed points from the defense. I mean, how often do you look at college football teams and say, well, the only way they win is if they get points from the defense? We've said that on a number of occasions, and on a number of occasions, the defense has literally produced points. Let's just remind you, just off memory, I don't even have all this written down. Maybe I should have. But let's just recall South Dakota State. Iowa gets 2 safeties in that game. All right. They get a short field where they basically do nothing on offense, but end up with a field goal. Those were Iowa's 7 points. They win that game 7-3. 7-3 in week 1 against a really good FCS opponent. Week 2, they lose, but if not for defense and special teams, let's throw LeVar Woods' unit in there as well. They block a punt, which produced Iowa's only touchdown. It was a couple of runs, I believe, from LaShawn Williams that produced the only touchdown. They had an interception from Terry Roberts. They had a forced fumble along the goal line on an Iowa State carry. I mean, the defense was spectacular, held Iowa State to 10 points. and yet it was a loss because the offense did absolutely nothing. We understand that. Nevada, Iowa shuts Nevada out, despite the fact that you had like 3 rain delays. Game went past midnight, past I think 1, 2 a.m., something like that. I was in Iowa City for that game. It was miserable, but the Hawkeyes shut out Nevada, and the offense looked okay, albeit against a really bad FBS team. Rutgers, you have a pick 6 from Cooper DeJean in that game. The defense plays absolutely incredible the entire game. Actually had 2 defensive touchdowns. Kayvon Merriweather also had a return for a touchdown, and I believe he had a forced fumble, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm getting the plays confused, but Kayvon Merriweather, I know, had 2 turnovers in that game. In Iowa, the defense outscored the offense. The Hawks win that game 27-10. Against Michigan, they bent. They gave up plenty of yards on the ground. We talked about the struggles on the ground. Blake Corum had 133 yards, averaged nearly 5 yards a carry and a touchdown, but yet only gave up 20 points when it counted. Michigan, a late garbage touchdown. The Hawkeyes lose at home to Michigan. They lose also on the road in Illinois, despite only giving up 9 points in the game. Defense was absolutely phenomenal again. And yes, DeVito went down. Illinois' quarterback went down with an injury, but I mean, how can you argue with holding Illinois to 9 points? We know the story with Ohio State. The offense turns the ball over 6 times. I thought the defense was really good. I mean, the fact that Iowa held Ohio State's backs, and I'm talking about Trevion Henderson and Mayan Williams, 22 carries. All right, 22 carries for those 2 guys, and a total of 57 yards. Tremendous performance by Iowa's defense, despite the fact that they gave up 54 points and lost. And at that point in the season, it's like at some point you're 3-4. The defense has been unbelievable. At some point, either they're gonna find a way to let down their guard up here, or just fatigue wise, they're gonna find a way to let down a bit. I don't want to say let down their guard, but start to fade a little bit. And that's nothing against the defense, but that's just human nature. At some point, you're going to struggle to keep that level of production up. And certainly they did not stop. Northwestern, they hold them to 13. Offense looked good against a poor Northwestern defense. Same thing with Purdue. Held Purdue, which has been one of the best offenses in the Big Ten Conference. Yes, it was a windy day, whatever. Held them to 3 points, made Aiden O'Connell's life miserable. Charlie Jones got his, but the Hawkeyes hold strong. Against Wisconsin, they get another a blocked punt. They get a pick 6 from Cooper DeJean, and then a big return on a special teams punt return from Cooper DeJean. Had 2 offensive touchdowns. That the drive started from inside the opponent's 20-yard line because of defense and special teams. Hawkeyes win that game, and then again, of course, against Minnesota, yes, they give up a ton of yards to Mo Ibrahim. Hold them to 10. Huge fumble recovery on a forced fumble from Jack Campbell, recovered by Deontay Craig. Jack Campbell with an interception, probably should have been called a pick 6. The point is, they have not cut back in production at any point this year. And if you want to talk about, the run game on Saturday, again, 10 points. They held Minnesota to 10 points. That's a winning number. Phil Parker, coordinator of the year in the country, in my opinion. Yes, I'm biased. LeVar Woods has been tremendous as well. And I think they got a pretty good punt returner now that they've turned to Cooper DeJean for that duty. Second thing that I was wrong about, and this is this one was surprising to me. I did not think the West would be this poor. And I'm not taking a shot at Iowa's division, but the fact of the matter is Wisconsin is not what we thought they'd be. Who would have thought they'd fire Paul Chryst during the season? And yes, they found a way to win some games, had to fight to get past Nebraska yesterday. Purdue has been up and down. I mean, they almost lost to Florida Atlantic. Yes, I know they were dealing with injuries in that game. They destroyed Minnesota. They did get destroyed by Iowa. Then they beat Illinois. I mean, they've just been so inconsistent. Minnesota, I don't know what to make of Minnesota. They played a terrible schedule, couldn't produce points yesterday. They've had their ups and downs. Illinois is probably the best team in this conference. No offense, Iowa fans. I still think Illinois is the most complete team in this conference. They pushed Michigan better than any other West team has pushed Michigan this year. But the fact of the matter is they still lost, and the West is clearly inferior to the East. Not that we didn't already know that, but I didn't think it'd be this severe. But it's given Iowa an opportunity with a poor offense to find a way to win this division. And that leads me to my number one thing I was wrong about. I did not think this team, when they were sitting at 3-4, I did not think this team could win out. I remember distinctly on one of my live shows, maybe a couple of my live shows, saying, Iowa ain't winning the West. And I'll admit that. I'm no problem admitting that. I'm not saying, I never said they were going to lose out. There were people who said that. That's just being, I think, foolish to even suggest such a thing about a Kirk Ferentz coach team. Regardless of the offensive problems, and believe me, folks, they've got huge offensive problems. And I hope that this success at the end of the season does not secure Brian Ferentz moving forward. I still feel the same about Brian Ferentz as I did 5-6 weeks ago. Have they looked better at times? They have. The offense is still atrocious. They're 130th in the country in total offense. The numbers should speak for themselves. Whether change will happen, I don't know. But you've got to give Kirk Ferentz credit. And Brian Ferentz to some extent, too. I mean, he deserves credit as the OC for keeping the guys together. And Petrus has looked better. We haven't had guys entering the portal during the season like some programs have. Arlen Bruce, Brody Brecht looked engaged, although their roles have been very slim this season. They've done this without Keegan Johnson. I understand that they've been dealing with some other injuries. They dealt with the injury to Reganey earlier in the year, Deontay Vines. It doesn't seem like anybody's checked out. And you've got to give the offensive line credit. They are still dealing with problems. They've got problems at center right now with Logan Jones struggling to get the ball to Spencer Petrus. Their pass protection still is not the best. But Brian has done a nice job getting the ball out of the pocket quicker. Bottom line is these coaches, specifically Kirk Ferentz, the buck stops with him. He has kept this team together. The defensive players do not appear to resent the offensive players or coaches. Everybody's playing as hard as they were the first few weeks of the season. That's a tremendous sign and a testament to their mental status and what these coaches are preaching to them behind closed doors, but also a testament to strength and conditioning and this defense finding a way, even though they're on the field a lot, to power through and keep the level of production high. And flat out, I didn't know if any of these things could happen. I had said, again, that Iowa wouldn't win the West. I even said there was a better chance that they would lose out. When they were 4-4, I said, better chance of them winning out or losing out. And I thought about it, and I said, well, better chance of them losing out. Did I think they were going to lose out? No. But I really did not see them winning out with games against Purdue, Wisconsin. And yes, for you naysayers, I understand those teams are not what they normally are. Minnesota, Purdue, Wisconsin, they're average Big Ten teams. There are definitely 3 teams in the Big Ten that I would take above any teams in the West. So there is a big difference there, but you've got to give credit where credit is due. And I was absolutely wrong about every one of these things, and I will take ownership for that. And look, this is why Kirk Ferentz is a great one, because of what character he builds his guys with, he instills in his players, and just go down the line. I mean, Iowa, a lot of high character within this program still, despite the claims of nepotism, and I think those are well-founded, and those issues still need to be addressed, absolutely need to be addressed. You cannot take away from the character of this football team. Coming up, an exclusive interview with Iowa 2023 defensive tackle commit, Anterio Thompson, a freak, certified freak, as I called him earlier on the channel, and that's an endearing title. This kid's a freak. I mean, he really is special. We're going to talk with Anterio coming up. Stay tuned. It's week 206 of Brada's Branded Thoughts right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Stay tuned. Hawkeye fans, let's talk about health and performance optimization for a moment. Our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition, offers amazing products. It's actually owned by former Iowa graduate Lance Shuttler. Now, I've decided to partner with Ascent Nutrition because of their unique approach to human health. Ascent offers an organically grown, mold and mycotoxin-free coffee. It provides a pure, clean, and rich flavor without those pesticides that most coffees are treated with. They also offer an algae oil DHA, which is used to support brain health, memory, and focus, as well as proper nervous system development in adults, children, athletes, and even pets. Now, lastly, their unique crafted wild pine pollen is used to support cardiovascular health, hormonal function, and a healthy libido. Your purchase not only supports this channel, but the business of a former Hawkeye. Visit goascentnutrition.com or click the link in the description below and use the code Hawkeyes. That's the code Hawkeyes to receive 15% off your total order from Ascent Nutrition. Pleased to be joined now by Iowa commit Anterio Thompson, a guy who has taken the world by storm with some intangibles that you don't often see in big guys, defensive tackles. Anterio, first of all, welcome to the show. We're happy to see you jump and be a part of the swarm and be a part of the black and gold. And How does it feel now to be committed to a Power 5 school, and a Power 5 school, a part of a state that you grew up in?
It's a dream. Like people dream about this, and for me to actually like work and like get to this point and be committed to a D1 program, it's like a dream come true.
So I got to ask you before we get into your story, because I really am fascinated by your story. You and I were chatting before we started recording this interview. Talk about what drew you to Iowa. You had schools. We're going to talk about some of these different schools. You had schools across the country interested in what you could bring to their football programs. And you picked Phil Parker, Kelvin Bell in this program. What specifically was it that sold you on the Hawks?
They believed in me first. They might have not offered me the last, but they believed in me first. Coming into Iowa Western, I wasn't really looked at as like something nothing special. I came in and surprised everybody from spring ball and things like that. And Bell ended up being the first coach to like talk to me. It was like so random. I was just in my room chilling, just watching, like doing homework. And Coach Terry, I guess I got text by a random number, and it said, "This is Calvin Bell from Iowa," and he just was just, it was just like wow. It was just like, why is the D1 coach texting me? It's like I'm not playing. I haven't played the season. I didn't play the season that we just went to the national champ. I didn't play none of that, and just to see him like believe in me. He invited me to a practice. He looked at me. He invited me to a camp, and it was like every time I talked to him, it wasn't. It's not like uh, a recruiting coach and a player. It's more like man talking to man, father figure, this type stuff like that. Like he always been real with me from the start, and it just drove me to their program and like just them believing me first. I knew I wanted to be there. I was just waiting for the.
I want to talk about your story before we get into what you bring to the football field, which is a unique skill set and one that fans are excited about. You kind of went the I don't want to say old fashioned route. That sounds, I don't know, that sounds almost cliche, but you grow up in Northeast Iowa, and just kind of tell our listeners some of the challenges you dealt with at the high school level. I know you lost someone dearly that really changed your life in high school. Just talk about the 4 years in high school and how you transitioned to playing college football at Western.
Going into high school, it wasn't like I knew I wanted to play football because I haven't played professional football with no program since high school. I mean, from the start of high school. Freshman year, I didn't even. I came in practice. I remember it was. I came in summer practice late. Everybody was practicing. Everybody had their helmets on, and I just came onto the field. I didn't even know what position I wanted to play. I came up. I was sat on the hill, watched them practice, and I remember Coach Davis, first D line coach I ever had. He came up to me and he was like, "What position you play?" I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "You're a DN." And then ever since then, my freshman year, I played DN. I didn't start until halfway through the season, and it was nothing special for me. I didn't have all the like attention I have now with all the Power Five coaches. I didn't have interest at all. It was just me playing football at that point. I'm playing football. I didn't have the right stats. I mean, I didn't have amazing stats. But my freshman year was just full of me not being physical, me not it's just me not being physical, and me not giving that monster that everybody's looking for. But sophomore year came in, was playing the end, moved to D tackle mid game, mid season, and a mid game. Didn't like it. I got double teamed a lot. Still, I mean, I still don't like getting double teamed, but I can eat it now. But I didn't wasn't nothing crazy either my sophomore year. Tackle people softly, didn't get off blocks. I don't even remember my stats at the time. And then junior year came and it just went downhill. It was probably the worst year of my life. I lost my grandma. She was my number one supporter. She told me I could do anything in this world. I just had to put my mind to it. And when I lost her, I just was done. I didn't go to class. I was not doing my homework. I leave school early sometimes. I was just that student that no one. I was just that student that everybody was like, yeah, he's not gonna be done. He's not gonna be done. But then And also, I had bad grades, like I said, and I had to sit out the first 5 games. And I sat out the 5 games. I did my time. And the game I was supposed to come back, it was against Cedar Falls, my junior year. Um, I got a concussion in the practice before, and I came back the next day perfectly fine. I was like, Coach, I'm ready to play. You don't got to worry about it. And they sat me out, and they said, I got to sit you out for a week. We got to be cautious about your concussion. And I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I was mad. I was mad from pain that I had losing my grandma, pain from school, pain from disappointing everybody. I threw my helmet, told her I quit, and walked off the field. And I didn't want to play football no more. I wasn't planning to play football my senior year at all. But then senior year came, the head coach got fired. The head coach switched to my advisor at Hempstead, Coach Horner. Um, he wanted me to come play football again. I didn't want to play football, but he got 2 of my teammates to convince me to come back. And I ended up doing that. I ended up coming back and ended up being the best decision of my life. Like my stats wasn't nothing crazy. I mean, I had 37 tackles, 36 solo, a sack, 7 tackles for loss. But if you look at my film in my senior year, it was just mostly me just being physically more dominant than the players in front of me. I didn't have no moves, none. It was just me grabbing, disengaging, making tackles. And I ended up, I mean, I had a little looks. I mean, I was one of the top players in Iowa. I guess I was an honorable mention in the top 100 players in Iowa. I had interest from Iowa State, but my GPA was, I had a bad GPA. My GPA wasn't good at all. So you can be looked at by top programs, and I ended up having to go to JUCO route. And I had to thank Coach Horner for that because he was putting the word in at these JUCOs. Without him, I probably would not be where I'm at right now. And I ended up getting heavy interest from Iowa Western. I got some interest from Ellsworth. Ellsworth came to one of my games. I got interest from Iowa Central. And I went on a visit to Iowa Western, and there was nothing else to be said. Like, except on campus, they had everything you need. Like, they had the tutoring, the programs, they had the coaches. That and it was all you need. As soon as I left, I talked to my mom on the way back home, and I told her I'm committed. I'm committing them all. And that's how I'm in. That's where I'm at right now. Ended up surprising everybody. I mean, I wasn't when I came in. I wasn't looked at as somebody that's going to come in and start the next year and do all this that I'm doing right now. I wasn't looked at that. I ended up surprising everybody.
If you flash forward to November 2022, Anterio, would you have ever expected yourself to be committed to play for not only a Division One FBS program, but a Power Five program? Would you have ever guessed that?
No, not at all. Like, if we go back in time and you told me, until you're going to be committed to Iowa, you're going to have all these interests, you're going to be a 3-star recruit, you're going to be the number 9 JUCO player in the nation. You told me that, I'd just look at you. I'd just laugh. I'd laugh, walk out the door, do my normal things. Like, this was never the dream. To be honest with you, growing up, I wasn't watching football like that. I wasn't into football. I wasn't watching college football. I didn't know nothing about the University of Iowa. I didn't know nothing. I watched. I ended up being a Bears fan because I watched the Bears versus the Packers from Matt Forte and them, and it was stuff like that. But growing up, I was playing video games in the house. I was not leaving the house. I was a mama's boy. When my mom was in the house, I was in the house, and she gave me my Xbox console. After that, I never left the house. Went to school, came back, was on the game, and then she told me to go out. She took the game from me one day. She was like, "You playing it too much. You gotta go outside." And I went outside, and surprisingly, it was people playing. I guess they was playing football outside, and I didn't have nothing else to do. I didn't have friends. I went out there, told them, "Can I play?" And they were all older than me. Like, I think I was about 9, 8. They were like 12, 14, and in high school type things. And I ended up going out there. They let me play after like telling me no 100 times. And the first play, the oldest guy there has the ball, and he's running at me. I'm over here scared. I'm like, "Nah, I'm not going to tackle him." But I see my mom watching. When my mom watching me, I go the hardest. My mom there, I got to go to Hardy. She watched me. I was like, I got to do it. He came up to me. I hit that man so hard, he didn't even want to play no more. He didn't even want to play the game no more. And after that, I knew I wanted to play football. I knew it. I just didn't know. I just didn't know the positions and none of that. I grew up. My stepdad was teaching me how to be a running back. I wasn't as big as I am now, so he was teaching me how to be a running back. I didn't go to no program. I didn't do no little league football, none of that. I was just practicing how to be a running back outside doors late at night with my stepdad. And I had an opportunity to play for I think it was a little league, but it was in Rock Island, Illinois. But I was being bad at the time. My mom didn't sign the paper.
So, Anterio, you brought up your grandmother and how difficult that was. If you can you speak about what she meant to you and what that did to you? Obviously, it was a difficult time, and you never forget those you love. But how has that motivated you in recent years?
It motivated me a lot. That woman was everything to me. Like, and through middle school, elementary, everything. Every time it was summer, every time it was vacation, I went with her. I went to her house. I spent my whole summer with my grandma because she meant so much to me. She believed in me before everybody believed in me. She told me I could do everything, anything I put my mind to. I mean, she came to us. I played football in middle school, but I didn't play it. I didn't play at all. I was just there. She came to the game, sat there the whole time while I'm sitting on the sideline, and I just remember waking up every summer watching Law and Order, Jerry Springer show. She loved watching it, drinking coffee with her. And when I lost her, it was like I lost a part of me. It's like I had to be a man about it. I was told I was not going to cry, but soon as everybody left, I let it all out. It was like I couldn't hold anything in, and I let that I had let that bring me all the way down. It was to my lowest point. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to play football. I didn't want to do homework. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to do any of that. But then I sat down with my mom, and my mom literally told me, she said, "What would your grandma want you to do? Would she want you to be here, sitting here, being bad, leaving school, not doing homework? Would she want you to do all that?" And I told her no. And after that, everything I do, I go hard for my grandma. I got her name tatted on me. Like, that woman's gonna always be with me, like, wherever I go.
And you raved. I mean, before we went live, you raved about Coach Horner, and you probably know this. There's another famous Iowan named Jeff Horner. This is not the former Iowa basketball player, but it's a guy who meant a lot to you. What did he mean to you? And had he not come around and pushed you to get back into football, where would you be today?
He means a lot to me. Like, that man helped me through high school. He was my advisor. He'd see at my lowest point. He'd see me in the hallway. He'd put me in his office. He'd tell me, "What am I doing? What are you doing? You got a future. What are you doing?" And I just not listen to him. I wouldn't talk to him. And my senior year came around. If he wasn't the head coach, I wouldn't have came back to play football. I wouldn't. We would not be on this phone having this interview right now. And when I got there, he believed in me. Like, it wasn't one of those things where he wanted me back on the team just to be on the football team. He believed in me 100%. He gave me the green light. He said, "When you go on that field, you're not getting out unless you want to be out." He gave me the green light. Believed in my talent, and I just went off after that. After I got the green light from him, that's when the season was up. Ended up having the best statistical season in high school in my career.
And Aaron Terry, he's meant a lot to you as well. Your D-line coach at Iowa Western, and of course head coach Strohmeyer. Your experience there, I know you haven't been there a real long time, but you've obviously launched your young career, I should say. What has Coach Terry, Coach Strohmeyer, and that staff meant to you, and what have they done to help you develop your abilities along that defensive line?
Uh, I can I can sit here and talk for hours about Coach Terry. Like, as soon as I stepped on campus, talked to him, he texted me. Like, I can show up old messages. You come here, you go on Power Five. You come here, he's telling me everything. I come here, I get coached by him, And he's teaching me moves I did not know in high school. Like I'm telling you, if I go back in high school right now with the moves and technique that I have right now, we don't even need to know what I'll be on the internet everywhere. But coming in, teaching me the things that I know now, and I have serious talks with him. I talk to him in his office. We talk about the recruiting process, and he helped me so much. Without him, I would any other JUCO. If I went to any other JUCO, none of this would have happened. Coach Terry made me the person I am now. He's motivated me to do the best I can be in the classroom, on the field, and he tests me. He doesn't make anything easy for me, and I love that about him. And Coach Stroh, he believed in me too from the start. Like he tells me all the time how good of a player I can be, how good of a player I can become if I put the work in. And you see, I did that, and sky was the limit. I ended up getting interest from coaches that I never thought I'd be getting interest from. I never thought I'd be here. Without them two, without coming to Iowa West and being coached by them two, you would not be having an interview with Anterio Thompson right now.
And Anterio, I'm glad you brought that up because Iowa Western, as you know, has a rich history of producing, D1 FBS talent here, and not just at Iowa, but at other major programs. And I mean, you talked about attracting interest from coaches around the country. How about this list? Kansas, Buffalo, South Dakota, Nebraska, Liberty, Eastern Michigan, UNLV, Wazoo, Memphis, Utah State, Western Kentucky, North Carolina State, Illinois. You mentioned to me Virginia Tech was interested. I mean, there's a lot. That's all over the country, and you just don't see Iowa kids, whether we're talking out of high school, obviously maybe a year or two into a junior college career, that's more common. But for you to be attracting attention across the country, what does that say about Western?
You saying it, the resume's there. You come here, you come here, put the work in, listen to the coaches, do the schoolwork, take advantage of everything that's being given to you here. You're gonna be successful. I hear that from Coach Terry all the time, and I can pull up Coach Terry's resume right now. Sent 20 players to the Division One programs, and I can name some. You got Davion Nixon, you got Perion Winfrey, you got the list go on. You come to Iowa Western's facility, you look on the wall, you see everybody that came here, put the work in, took everything serious, and you see it. They go into D1 programs. Some of them are in the NFL, and it just shows that Iowa Western is not a program to take lightly. And you come here, we always competing for championships. We always competing. I'm trying to tell you, like Iowa Western, if I didn't, I'd take Iowa Western over any junior college in the country.
And I love the fact, Anterio, that you brought up Davion Nixon because, I mean, I look at you size-wise, you're comparable to Davion Nixon. And maybe people don't realize that, but Davion, I think, at Iowa was in the 6'3", 300 range, somewhere in there. And, I mean, talk about athleticism. Have you heard that comparison a lot? Because the storylines are almost eerily similar between you and Davion.
I hear it a lot. I mean, I hear it so much through the social media, Davion Nixon 2.0, and our stories is very similar, very similar. And you see it. I mean, 54, Iowa Western, like it just sims together, and you see him, and you see how Coach Bell developed him. He's in the NFL now, having a successful career with the Panthers, and that made me believe in Coach Bell even more. He took a kid just like me from Iowa Western, brought him into his program, developed him, and he had a fantastic career at Iowa, and now he's in the NFL.
I want you to talk about goals for a second. I usually say this for the end, but you have had to take a different route than maybe your traditional college football player or traditional player that comes to Iowa and earns a scholarship and perhaps makes it to the league. So you've kind of had to take. I don't want to say you started from the bottom. That's kind of cliche as well, but that's kind of how you describe things. You tend to take things step by step, small goal, small goal, small goal, and now you're accomplishing big things. But I'm sure there's bigger things on the horizon for Anterio Thompson. Can you talk about goals, short term and long term?
So coming into my season, my first college season, I was projected to be preseason second team. I wanted to be I wanted to be first team. I was going for first team, and even if I don't get it, I feel like I had a successful first college career. I mean, first college season. Um, you was on this Iowa Western defense. We stacked everywhere. We got ballers everywhere, and just for me to come out and have the season I had was higher than my expectations. But my goal was to be first team. Even if I don't be first team, I'll be glad for second team. I'll be glad to be on team. It doesn't matter. My goals were simple. It was I got redshirt my freshman year. My goals from where that started, was to get bigger, stronger, faster, get better, be a better DN altogether, be better with my hands, more explosive, better feet. And I feel like I succeeded on my goals. And my next goal is to graduate community college, and get over to Iowa Western and give them 100%. I mean, not Iowa Western, get over to the University of Iowa and give them 100% on.
Are there some comparisons? It sounds like there are. Coach Terry and Coach Bell. I mean, I know you don't know Coach Bell as well as you know Coach Terry, but it's just how you describe Coach Terry is sort of similar to how a lot of prospects and players that I've spoke with have described Kelvin Bell. Just how he takes you under his wing and makes you feel like you're a person, right? You're his friend, you're his son, so to speak. He's kind of a father figure to players. Can you talk about your relationship with Coach Bell?
I mean, it's straightforward, man. I look at him as like a father figure. He talks to me about the recruiting process when I didn't know nothing about the recruiting process. I have no family. I have no family that went Power Five. I have no family that went above the level of playing D1 sports or anything like that. So when I first started talking to him, man, he was talking to me as Calvin Bell. He wasn't talking to me as Coach Bell. He was talking to me as Calvin Bell. He was letting me know how this process worked, and he kept it with me from the start. He was like, "I want to coach you," and I believed he wanted to coach me. He was interested in me first, and I mean, he was not first, but he was interested in me before everybody else. Even though they offered me last, he was the first person to like invite me to go to a D1 program. And just my relationship with Gavin Miller is very simple. We talk when we talk when we need to talk, and when we do talk, we have long talks. And if I can talk to him about anything that's going on, I can text him, and we have deep conversations about it.
Can you talk about strengths? We know you're going to discuss speed, and you obviously to be successful, you have to understand your own weaknesses and where you are set out to improve your game. Can you talk about your strengths and weaknesses in November of 2022?
My strengths, speed. You see it. I ran a 4.6 at Nebraska camp. I'm very quick for my size.
Repeat that so everybody can hear that. Those who don't know.
I ran my first ever 40 time at Nebraska. It ended up being a 4.6. That number's insane to me. I didn't believe it when they told me that. But
it's insane to me.
It's insane for a 295-pound guy like myself to run that. That's insane. But strengths, my speed, my power with my hands, and just my willingness to not give up, my effort, and my twitch. I'm very quick with the way I move. I try not to be a sluggish type of guy. And my weaknesses, I'm one of those players that lie and be like, I got no weakness. I have no weakness at all. I'm the perfect athlete. Anything. I work on my weakness conditioning. I mean, I'm very conditioned, but it's sometimes where we get on them 9-play drives where like I gotta get up there a little more. I mean, not play 9-play drives, but I guess things like that. I say sometimes I could read a block the wrong way, but just off my power alone, I can fix that problem. But get better at reading blocks. My stance is kind of awkward. I don't know if you've seen it, but my stance is kind of awkward. And me and Bill talked about it. So you can say my weakness is like my stance is not that not that good.
Can you expound on that? Because I didn't. I mean, I watched your tape. I didn't notice anything, but I don't know, D-line coach. Can you expound on that?
So the way I get in my stance, everybody says it looks like I'm on my knee when I'm in my stance because I'm so parallel to the ground. But I do that technique because I like to see what's in front of me, so I'll get lower and have my head a little higher so I can see the O line in front of me. I can read because that's how I read my the people in front of me. I see if he moves away, he comes to me, and I get very low to the ground. And sometimes it can be an advantage, and sometimes it can be a disadvantage. But I plan to get that better. Being with Coach Bell, I'm definitely gonna get that fixed.
I have to ask you this. Were you surprised to see David Calker decommit last night? We're recording this on Friday, and I'm not implying that he decommitted because you were on board, but I would think it would be intimidating for a kid out of high school to see somebody who has done what you've done, albeit at the JUCO level, totally different than the Big Ten. We're not disputing that, but with some of your intangibles, were you surprised by that?
I talked to him before. I talked to him. Uh, I guess a day or two before he did that. It wasn't. I was surprised. I mean, I was surprised because he wasn't given that type of demeanor that he was going to decommit. He was talking to me about how to get faster and how I got to where I'm at now. And for him to decommit, it was mind blowing. I guess the whole Twitter world was surprised that he decommitted and went to Iowa State. And I really don't think it's because of me. He's a DN, I'm a D tackle. I really don't think it's because of me coming in, because me and him, I first met him at the Iowa camp, the D line camp. And me and him built the relationship there. And we ended up following each other on Twitter, Instagram, and Snap. And we were like building a bond. But I'm still going to be close, but I'm still going to be Snap. We still going to be cool, even if he is a clone, but that's my little insight on that. He's a DM, I'm a D tag. I don't.
I will say this though, his size, I could have seen him lining up inside at times. So, and Phil Parker, that's one thing. I guess my last question about Iowa, we've talked about Kelvin Bell, but Phil Parker and Kelvin Bell, that tandem, this team in 2022, and really every team since Phil Parker took over, and especially since Kelvin took over, they are deep. They want to play 8, 9, sometimes even 10 guys. Rotate these guys in. Everybody's fresh. And they run guys inside and out, whether we're talking about a guy like Davion Nixon or certainly AJ Epinesa. And Nixon was primarily inside, but Lucas Van Ness is another guy who they'll swing in, they'll swing out. John Wagner. The versatility of Iowa's defensive line, was that part of your attraction to the program?
Yeah, like every year that Coach Bell tells us, the D line, I mean the defense, and even the defense in general has always been elite. And I went there for the practice when they were practicing, and I seen everything that he was coaching them. And Iowa Western and Iowa's, they're very similar. We run very similar defenses, and I just knew it would have been an easy transition to go to Iowa. I talked to my D line coach, Coach Cory, about it before I even committed. And we both agreed that the transition from Iowa Western to Iowa is the easiest, and he feel like the scheme that I play and the way I play my play style was gonna fit easier. I mean, fit the easiest with Iowa.
And obviously, there's going to be a learning curve because you're jumping to a totally different level. But you sound confident to where you feel like you're going to have a chance to come in and potentially compete for playing time right off the bat. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'm very confident that I can come in and compete for a spot right away. I don't give up at all. I could be 10th on the depth chart. I'm gonna find a way to get to 5. I'm gonna find a way to get to 4. I'm gonna find a way to get up there. So just know when I get to Iowa, they're gonna have 110%, 000% of me. I'm giving it all.
Is there anybody on the current team or the defensive line that you are impressed with specifically? I mean, obviously the unit is impressive, but is there anybody that maybe you're friends with or that impresses you when you watch him on tape? Van Ness, Shannon, go around the line there.
Definitely, man. Definitely, yeah. I'm watching him. I watch. Doing my schedule with the way we're doing great. We're in the playoffs. I really don't have time to watch like games like that doing my schedule. But when I did tune in, I was watching Van. Like that dude's a dog. Like I was just watching how he developed throughout the years because I did watch a couple Iowa games. That he's gonna get drafted. He's gonna be a hot pick.
And there's no secret. Iowa, we'll see what with the COVID year and what these guys end up doing. But Shannon is a senior, and Logan Lee's a senior. Joe Evans. I mean, I know you're a D tackle, but they could potentially be losing some serious veteran leadership on the inside. So no question, you'll have an opportunity to come in immediately.
Yeah, I feel like Shannon too. I looked at Shannon. Shannon was when I got invited to the camp. I seen him too. He's a dog too. Like
She is.
when I look at him, I look at me a little bit too. So he's a dog. He definitely if an NFL team takes a chance on him, he definitely gonna impress.
Absolutely. And they're well coached, right? I mean, you know what you're gonna get from Kelvin Bell, and NFL teams know what they're gonna get from Iowa defensive linemen. This is kind of a lighthearted question to finish things off, Anterio. You still play video games?
Yeah, well, I mean, not as much as I did growing up, because like growing up, as soon as I got out of school, right on it. But now we're doing my schedule. I got classes, I got practices, I got meetings, everything like that. And even when I do get to the room, I just be with everything going on. I be too tired to play video games. But when I do, I definitely play.
And is there anything else that you do in your free time? I mean, what little free time you still have? What's there to do out in Western Iowa?
Yeah, you can get some food. You can get some food with some friends. We got on Thursday. You can go bowl for I think $10 for the whole night. But other than that, most things I do is get done with practice, go to the meetings. I go work out, and then take some naps. I'll be taking a lot of naps. But that's really all you gonna really get over here. They got all the food places over here. You can choose.
Yeah.
It ain't really like nothing like, oh yeah, I mean, you got Top Golf too. I never did it, but like you got Top Golf. But other than that, you really over here just play football.
Lack of distractions can be a good thing, right? Staying focused, honed in on what you're doing. So, Anterio Thompson, 2023 commit, Iowa Western. Anterio, appreciate the time. We're all looking forward to seeing you generating some dynamic plays on that defensive line with Kelvin Bell and Phil Parker at the helm. And we're just happy you're on board and appreciate you taking the time for this interview.
Thank you for interviewing me, man. It means a lot.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Not going to anoint Anterio Thompson as the next Davion Nixon, but man, this guy has the physical traits of a great one. And I cannot stress this enough. That Iowa Western program over in Council Bluffs, they get guys ready for the next level. High hopes for Anterio Thompson and this defensive unit, which Phil Parker, year after year, just continues to restock. And I mean, I don't see any signs of this team, regardless of what happens up front with some of these older guys. Yes, they'll lose Jack Campbell. I don't think this team's going to miss a beat. They'll get Justin Jacobs back. They'll get Anterio Thompson. And Aaron Graves will be another year older. Brian Allen is a 4-star. They're going to be fine. And credit to Phil Parker for doing work and Kelvin Bell for doing work on the recruiting trail. Appreciate you tuning in for another edition of Brada's Branded Thoughts here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Please hit that like button on the way out. Please subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.